Before you scroll, hear me out for 1 minute. If your sink is full of hair, your brush looks worse every week, and those expensive serums keep giving you the same empty promise. This might be the video that finally makes the whole thing click. Because the real problem may not be your shampoo, it may not even be your hair, it may be a hidden pressure building around the root itself. And by the end of this video, you'll know which oil ranks dead last, which one fools almost everybody, and which single oil has the strongest case for helping weak, thinning follicles fight their way back. Here's the first truth you need to hear. Most people say their follicles are dead, but in many cases, they're not dead. They're dormant, irritated, miniaturized, or slowly starving. I call this follicle choke. Think of your follicle like a tiny plant root inside a narrow tube. If that tube gets inflamed, oily, clogged, hormonally stressed, or constantly irritated, the root doesn't disappear overnight. It just gets squeezed. Smaller hair comes out, then weaker hair, then fuzz, then almost nothing. That's why serum after serum seems to fail. You were pouring shine onto the strand, while the root was quietly suffocating underneath. In androgenetic hair loss, follicles can miniaturize under DHT and local inflammation, and truly scarred follicles are a different story altogether. Once a follicle is destroyed and replaced by scar tissue, no oil brings it back. But many people are dealing with miniaturized, not permanently destroyed, follicles. And that's why this matters so much. Hair loss doesn't usually begin with a dramatic bald patch. It starts quietly. A little more hair on the pillow, a wider part, more scalp under bright bathroom light. You tell yourself it's stress, weather, age, a bad haircut. It doesn't stop there. Once the scalp environment gets worse, the follicle has to keep producing hair in hostile conditions. More inflammation, more oil imbalance, more breakage, more miniaturization. The strand gets thinner, so you style harder, you tug more, you heat more, you wash more, aggressively, and now the damage is attacking from both ends. The follicle is weak at the base, and the hair shaft is snapping through the middle. And it gets worse. A stressed scalp can become a trap. Dandruff flares, itching starts, you scratch, barrier damage builds, the microbiome shifts. The scalp gets greasy and flaky at the same time, which feels impossible until it happens to you. Now the surface is inflamed, the root is irritated, and the strand is fragile. That's how thinning turns into shedding, and shedding turns into panic. Here's the scary part. Most people respond by buying stronger products, not smarter ones. They pile on thick oils that never reach the actual problem. Or they use essential oils undiluted and burn the scalp they're trying to save. Or they switch products every 5 days and never give any method time to work. Hair growth is slow. Follicles do not care about your impatience. So let's fix that. I'm going to rank the top 5 hair oils, from least to most effective, for a weak, thinning scalp. Not by hype, not by TikTok comments, by mechanism, by evidence, by what each oil actually does. And stay with me, because number 1 is not the oil most people expect. In fact, it's the one that works from a very different angle than the rest. Number 5 is coconut oil. Now, before the coconut fans get mad, listen carefully. Coconut oil is not useless. It's just often used for the wrong job. Coconut oil shines when the problem is damage, breakage, rough texture, protein loss, and weak hair shafts. It's not the strongest option if your real issue is hormonal miniaturization at the follicle. That distinction matters. This is where things change. Coconut oil contains lauric acid, and because of its structure, it can penetrate the hair shaft better than many other oils. In a classic study comparing coconut oil, sunflower oil, and mineral oil, coconut oil was the only one that significantly reduced protein loss in both damaged and undamaged hair. That means it helps keep the strand from leaking its structure every time you wash, comb, dry, and style it. Another study found long-term coconut oil use improved scalp barrier function, lowered transepidermal water loss, and shifted the scalp microbiome in a healthier direction, with reduced dandruff scores after treatment. So if your hair is snapping off and your scalp is dry, irritated, or flaky, coconut oil can help stabilize the battlefield. But here's the problem. Coconut oil mostly protects what's already growing. It does not have strong human evidence for reversing pattern hair thinning by itself. So if your part is getting wider because follicles are shrinking, coconut oil alone is like polishing a car with engine trouble. The exact way to use it is simple. Warm 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon in your hands. Apply it from scalp to ends as a pre-wash treatment once or twice a week. Leave it on for 30 to 60 minutes, then shampoo thoroughly. If your hair is very fine or your scalp gets oily fast, keep it mostly on the lengths, not heavy on the roots. The warning matters. Don't leave thick layers on for days. Don't assume overnight means better. For some people, especially with build-up prone scalps, that backfires fast. Coconut oil gets a 5 out of 10, great for protection. Limited for regrowth. Number 4 is tea tree oil. Tea tree oil is not a hair growth superstar, it's a scalp environment fixer, and that makes it more important than it sounds. Because a follicle forced to live under constant itch, flakes, and micro-irritation is already at a disadvantage. Tea tree oil's power comes from its antimicrobial action, especially compounds like terpenen, 4-ol. In a randomized trial with 126 people, a 5% tea tree oil shampoo improved dandruff severity by 41% in 4 weeks, compared with 11% in the placebo group, with no reported adverse effects. Why do we care? Because dandruff and scalp irritation don't just look annoying. They create friction around the follicle. They keep the scalp inflamed. And inflammation is one of the quiet forces that make miniaturizing follicles feel even more trapped. Most people get this wrong by treating tea tree like a direct regrowth oil. It's not. It's a cleanup oil. It clears the room, so healthier growth has a chance. Use it in a shampoo or diluted scalp formula, ideally around 2 to 5%. Massage gently into the scalp 3 times a week. Let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes before rinsing. If you're using pure essential oil, do not drop it straight on the scalp. And yes, here comes the warning. Undiluted tea tree oil can irritate sensitive skin fast. Patch test first. If your scalp burns, stop. Tea tree oil gets a 6 out of 10. Strong for flakes and itch. Medium at best for actual hair regrowth. Number 3 is peppermint oil. This is the oil that explodes online because the mechanism sounds exciting. Peppermint creates that cool, fresh sensation, and your brain instantly thinks, it's working. Sometimes that feeling tells the truth. Sometimes it's just drama in a bottle. Still, peppermint deserves respect. Its active compound, menthol, may stimulate blood flow sensations and influence the scalp environment. In a mouse study, peppermint oil increased dermal thickness, follicle depth, alkaline phosphatase activity, and IGF-1 expression. By week 4, follicle depth in the peppermint group was dramatically higher than the controls, and the results were comparable to minoxidil in that animal model. That sounds huge, and it is huge, in mice. But here's the limitation nobody tells you when they're trying to sell you a bottle. That was an animal study, not a human trial. So, peppermint is promising, but not proven in people, the way viewers are often led to believe. If you want to use it, dilute it to about 1 to 2% in a carrier oil. That means roughly 2 to 4 drops per teaspoon of carrier. Massage gently into the scalp 2 or 3 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes. Then wash, if needed. The warning is simple. More peppermint does not mean more growth. It may just mean more irritation. Never use it neat. Never use it on a broken or highly inflamed scalp. Peppermint gets a 7 out of 10. Exciting mechanism. Weak human proof. And now we're getting close to the oils that actually change the conversation. Because number 2 has human data, and number 1 may be the first oil that makes you realize why every surface-level fix kept failing in the first place. So far, we've cleared out the pretenders. Coconut protects the strand. Tea tree helps clean up an irritated scalp. Peppermint looks powerful, but most of its biggest numbers come from animal data. Useful? Yes. Enough on its own? Usually not. Now we hit number 2, rosemary oil. This is where hype and evidence finally start to shake hands. Rosemary oil works because it doesn't just sit there making your hair feel soft. It appears to target circulation and the scalp environment in a way that may support weakened follicles. In plain English, it helps the root breathe a little easier. That matters when the follicle has been stuck in what I called follicle choke. A randomized trial compared rosemary oil with 2% minoxidil in 100 people with androgenetic alopecia over 6 months. At 3 months, neither group had meaningful hair count improvement. That alone is a lesson in patience. But at 6 months, both groups showed significant increases in hair count, and there was no significant difference between rosemary and minoxidil in the final hair count outcome. The rosemary group also had less scalp itching than the minoxidil group. That is the kind of study that makes people stop and pay attention. But here's the problem. Most people sabotage rosemary oil before it gets the chance to work. They either use a fake rosemary hair oil loaded with perfume and almost no rosemary, or they use pure essential oil directly on the scalp and irritate the skin, or they quit after 2 weeks because nothing magical happened in the mirror. Hair follicles move slowly. 6 months, slowly. Here's the exact method. Mix 1 tablespoon of a carrier oil like jojoba, grapeseed, or light coconut oil with 3 to 5 drops of rosemary essential oil. Massage it into the scalp for 5 minutes, especially around thinning areas. Use it at night, 4 to 5 times per week. If your scalp is sensitive, start every other night. Keep the rest of your routine boring and consistent. The warning matters more than people think. Do not pour rosemary essential oil straight onto your scalp. Do not combine it with 5 other active oils because you want extra power. That usually gives you extra irritation, not extra hair. Rosemary gets an 8.5 out of 10. Real human evidence. Slow, steady payoff. Now for number 1. And this is the oil I kept delaying for a reason. Because number 1 doesn't win by making your scalp tingle. It wins by attacking the problem from deeper inside. Pumpkin seed oil. Yes, really. Not the sticky black miracle oil from a random ad. Not a luxury serum with pumpkin on the label. Plain, cold-pressed pumpkin seed oil, used the right way, is one of the most interesting oils in the hair world because it may do something the others mostly don't. It may help reduce the hormonal squeeze that makes follicles shrink in the first place. That's why it dominates this list. In a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, 76 men with androgenetic alopecia took 400 milligrams of pumpkin seed oil daily for 24 weeks. The result? The pumpkin seed oil group showed a 40% mean increase in hair count, compared with 10% in the placebo group. The proposed mechanism was the oil's phytosterols and possible 5-alpha reductase effects, meaning it may help reduce the conversion of testosterone into DHT, the hormone tied to follicle miniaturization in pattern hair loss. Read that again. Most oils help the surface. This one may also help the signal hitting the follicle. This is where things really change. Because if your follicle is not truly dead, but stuck under DHT pressure, inflammation, and miniaturization, then fixing only the scalp surface is like opening a window in a room that's filling with smoke from the basement. You need to calm the environment and reduce the pressure source. That's why pumpkin seed oil rises to number 1. It connects to the hidden mechanism we started with. Now let me be honest, because honesty builds better scripts and better results. The study used capsules, not kitchen spoons, of salad oil. So when people say, 1 spoon rebuilds dead follicles, that's a dramatic headline, not a medical promise. But if you want the home version that matches the spirit of the evidence, here's the safest, practical method. Use 1 teaspoon of food-grade, cold-pressed pumpkin seed oil with breakfast each day. That's the 1 spoon habit. Keep it small, keep it consistent. If you want to make it easier, stir it into yogurt, take it with eggs, or swallow it straight after food. You can also use a light amount topically once or twice a week, but its most interesting evidence is from internal use, not just scalp massage. More is not better. Consistency is better. The warning is important. If you have digestive issues, gallbladder concerns, take medications, or you're pregnant, ask a clinician before making it a daily habit. And if you already have clearly scarred, shiny areas with no visible follicle openings, do not fool yourself into thinking any oil can resurrect scar tissue. That's not how follicles work. Pumpkin seed oil gets a 9.2 out of 10. Not because it's magic, because it hits the root problem more directly than the others. So, what should you actually do starting tomorrow morning? Here's the simple action plan. Morning is for internal support. Take 1 teaspoon of food-grade pumpkin seed oil with breakfast. Keep your scalp routine light. No aggressive scratching. No hot water torture. No 3 new products on the same day. Night is for scalp support. On 4 or 5 nights a week, use your diluted rosemary oil blend and massage for 5 minutes. On 1 or 2 wash days, use coconut oil as a short pre-wash if your hair is dry or breaking. If your scalp is flaky or itchy, swap in a tea tree shampoo a few times a week. If you want peppermint, use it lightly and only if your scalp tolerates it. What happens in 3 days? Usually not regrowth. Let's be real. But many people notice less itch, less tightness, less flaking, and a calmer scalp. What happens in 1 week? Your scalp often feels less angry. Hair may look a little smoother, a little less frizzy, and shedding from breakage may start easing if damage was part of the problem. What happens in 30 days? This is where small signals matter. Less hair on the pillow, less panic in the shower drain, baby hairs in some areas for a few people. Better density in photos if the scalp was inflamed and damaged more than truly bald. But here's the catch. Real pattern hair improvements usually take months, not miracles. And now the mistakes. This part saves people more hair than any product ad ever will. Do not use undiluted essential oils. Do not switch routines every week. Do not drench your scalp in heavy oil and call it treatment. Do not assume tingling means growth. Do not ignore sudden, patchy, or aggressive shedding. That needs real medical evaluation. Do not confuse dormant follicles with destroyed ones. And most of all, do not chase shine while the root is still trapped. If you want the fastest summary possible, it's this. Coconut helps protect the strand. Tea tree helps calm scalp chaos. Peppermint is promising, but mostly early stage. Rosemary has real human data and deserves the hype. But pumpkin seed oil takes number 1 because it may work on the hidden pressure shrinking the follicle in the first place. So here's my challenge to you. Try the routine for 30 days. Take progress photos in the same lighting. Watch your pillow, your drain, your hairline, your part. Because sometimes the transformation doesn't begin when you buy the most expensive serum. It begins when you finally stop treating hair loss like a cosmetic problem and start treating it like a trapped root problem. And when that hidden pressure starts to lift, the change is quiet at first, then visible, then hard to ignore. Then finally, your hair starts looking like it belongs to you again.